Hello there, friends and enemies. I am a big fan of comics, so much so that I decided to start making my own comics. I'm working on my first one very slowly but surely. It may not look very good right now, but I think that ultimately it's helping me work on art. Point being that I am a big fan of comics, and today I wanted to talk about one of my favorite comics, an independent webcomic called Kill 6 Billion Demons. Before we begin, I want to put a little bit of a disclaimer on here. I will be talking a little bit about some mild adult subject matter, and will probably be showing some graphic images on screen. So if you're not comfortable with that, or if you're not comfortable with whoever's watching this video seeing that, go ahead and click off now. Later on in the video, I will be talking about spoilers of the Kill 6 Billion Demons story, but I will give another warning before that happens so that you don't have to worry about, not knowing when it's coming up. So let's start with, what is Kill 6 Billion Demons? Kill 6 Billion Demons is a independent webcomic created by Tom Bloom, otherwise known as Abaddon, and the physical copies of Kill 6 Billion Demons are published by Image Comics. Kill 6 Billion Demons follows the life of a college girl who, at the beginning of the story, is trying to have sex for the first time when an armored figure shows up in her room. More armored figures show up and behead that armored figure, they take her boyfriend away, and then the headless figure that was in her room before shoves a stone in her head, sending her to Throne, which is, technically speaking, heaven. What follows is a story about strength and the cycle of violence. In a way, you could call Kill 6 Billion Demons an epic. It is a big, grand story that has a lot of moving parts that go along with it. The story never feels like it takes a lull. It seems to constantly always be having things happen that are pushing the story forward, or at least pushing the action in front of the story at all times. The story's writing being so big and grandiose is reflected in its art, which is one of the first things that is often brought up when Kill 6 Billion Demons is the topic of conversation. The art goes for something akin to a cartoonish, not really realism style. It feels very comic booky in a lot of ways, and in this way, it really hits hard when you see these gigantic set pieces on these big open spreads that just fill out an entire world that you weren't really expecting to come from this comic. You can tell Tom really cares about this piece of work. He puts so much work into all of the panels, all of the spreads, and he really wants to make it look very nice. On top of this, he employs a style of writing that tells you a bit about the history of this world and builds on the lore of this world without always directly telling you exactly what's going on. While, yes, the main character is a human when most of the other characters are not, so she has to get the information told directly to her, there's a bunch of other information that you sort of glean just from seeing what's going on. From seeing the way that the Thor Knights act to meeting the Seven for the first time and seeing them interact with each other, you get the feel that everything in this world has been built around the history of itself. Everything feels very well populated, it feels like it has a history and a personality of its own, and nothing feels as though it's shoehorned in just for the story. That being said, it's very easy to see the type of humor that Tom likes to sort of inject every once in a while into Kill 6 Billion Demons. A lot of times the humor is very one note. There's not a lot of lingering on jokes, it'll often just be a throwaway one line that sounds pretty funny. On occasion, the comedic timing can come from the violence that is depicted in the comic. But taking a step back to add on to the lore and world building of the comic itself, occasionally the chapters will come with an extra part of the webpage written in usually red text that gives you an extra subsequent story. Sometimes it'll be an in-universe piece of fiction, sometimes it'll be an in-universe story from one of the gods. I'm sure there's a word for these, but right now I'm going to call them side stories. And these side stories often depict a fictional story within the universe, or they will depict an actual legend or tale from something that happened within the universe of Kill 6 Billion Demons. Integrated into this poignant writing style, Tom Bloom loves to wear his inspirations on his sleeves, or whenever he likes to, make a callback or reference to something that exists, it's very obvious. Very early in the series, we see the character Maya saying "reach heaven by violence," which is a callback to Morrowind, something in one of Vivek's lessons. In a much more recent chapter, there is an Eric Andre reference. These are just two examples of the references that you can be found in Kill 6 Billion Demons. Within the writing of this comic, Tom seems to like to employ a philosophy of never having anything be predictable. Things are constantly happening within the story, as I mentioned before, and oftentimes, if you're not paying attention, it can just feel like one thing transitioning into another thing into another thing. However, if you, like me, go back for a second read just to make sure that you're understanding what's happening in the story, you can see that everything is connected. It's just going in wildly different directions because of the circumstances of the story itself. I really especially enjoy the evolution of Allison as a character. When we first meet Allison, she is a scared, shy college girl. We don't even actually know her name until about 23 pages into the comic itself. That's a pretty long time to know your main character without knowing exactly who they are. As the story goes on, she grows and she gets stronger, either from learning by getting help from other people, some of which she probably shouldn't have gotten help from, or by experiencing just hardships throughout the journey that she has while she lives enthroned. In fact, I could say this about most of the characters in Kill 6 Billion Demons. I really enjoy the characters of this comic. I'm hard-pressed to really find a character that I don't like. Even Oscar, a character that's kind of geared to make you not like him, I find to be a fun character to just sort of play around with as a small-time villain. And the series isn't shy about telling you when a character should be considered a villain or not, which I really enjoy. That being said, I think it's time for me to give you my second warning. I am about to talk about spoilers for Kill 6 Billion Demons, so if you don't want to hear any spoilers, I would recommend going and checking out the comic yourself before watching the rest of this video. I'll go ahead and link the website down below so that you can read the comic yourself. In this part of the video, I just want to talk about things that I like about Kill 6 Billion Demons, which ultimately is the point of this video, is just for me to talk about a piece of media that I like. I'm not really analyzing the comic itself, I just wanted to talk about it. And I want to kick that off by talking about the title, Kill 6 Billion Demons, something that whenever I bring this up to people, they ask me, what exactly does the title mean? And for the longest time, I was misinforming people, and by longest time, I mean for about 8 months of me knowing that this comic existed. Because despite the fact that the comic tells you multiple times what Kill 6 Billion Demons is, I kept telling people, oh, it's a command. It's something that Allison has to overcome, and that's not true. Because you see, it's somewhere near the end of the first book of Kill 6 Billion Demons where you realize that Kill 6 Billion Demons is meant to be the name of the successor that has the Key of Kings, Allison. Allison's alternate name is Kill 6 Billion Demons. This follows the trope of naming conventions within the story that I really like, such as Maya's name being Kill the Gods and Topple Their Thrones, or even going on to the Angel's name. The fact that the Angels have these long, intricate names is really fun to me. I like being able to say that I know these names to other people. I even like when some characters have ridiculous names, such as the best character, Coca-Cola. And I think part of the reason that I feel so ashamed that I didn't know that Kill 6 Billion Demons was Allison's name is because on top of being told directly to your face that that is her name multiple times, I just didn't get it until I had completely caught up with the series and I was trying to think about why that series of words comes up so much. There's even a part, I believe in book 6, maybe the end of book 5, where they list out all of Allison's titles for you. It just felt like a swift kick to my stomach to sort of have this information readily available to me and just ignore it, go blindly away from it. Although, to be fair, the first read-through of Kill 6 Billion Demons that I had, I didn't really have a great time paying attention to the story. I was sort of just enthralled by the way that it was written without actually paying attention to the words. But now on my second read-through, I'm finding that I like a lot more characters than I originally thought I did. I found myself really enjoying Solomon David on my second read-through. I really like the way that his character works within the universe. I like that it's told to you outright that he is a tyrant. He is an overbearing sort of dictator of the part of the universe that he owns. But it's also told to you outright that he believes that he is completely just. He believes that he is too strong to be taken down, so he can protect these people without any problems. And I think the Ring of Power arc really shows this. Solomon spends the entirety of the Ring of Power arc being overconfident and really just asserting that nothing can beat him. And while, yes, during the war immediately after, he does obviously struggle with Jagannath, even to the point of being almost completely killed, he still maintains an air about him where he seems to attempt to take on Jagannath himself most of the time. I like that surrounding Solomon is a lot of this holy imagery, sort of kind of trying to show him as the god that he perpetuates. But surrounding all of this holy imagery is also imagery of death and destruction. I also found myself liking Incubus a lot more the second time through. I like that he seems to be sort of parasitically just kind of latching on to whichever side he thinks might win this war that's going on. I feel like Gog is a fun character, especially when you pay attention to the way that she acts and why she acts that way, and the way that she seems to treat other characters. And of course, I have, since first seeing him, loved Jagannath as a villain. I think he's a great villain because his thing is that he just wants to be done with the whole cycle. He's sick of the cycle and he wants to be done with it. Aside from the characters, I think it's been amazing seeing the evolution of Tom Bloom's art over the 12 years that the comic has been running. It starts off very cartoony, like I was saying before, where it kind of dips into realism just a tiny bit, but for the most part, it's going for a cartoony comic book type of look. And while it still keeps that very same allure to it, it's very clearly evolved into being a much cleaner, much tighter drawn comic. A lot of the set pieces are more grand, especially during the current arc, which is the final arc. And I think this is especially shown with Tom taking multiple weeks and sometimes months off just to do these gigantic, huge spreadsheets of all these ships flying around and shooting each other and all of these hundreds, maybe even thousands of characters just fighting each other. The art is very expressive and it really touches a part of my brain that feels really nice when I just sort of look at the comic. Tom's use of color is really nice, especially during this scene after Jagannath does his big, like, 1,000 swords attack, and everything's all red and pinks and oranges. It looks really nice, and it feels really good just to see this landscape that's sort of destroyed and all of these characters that are just dealing with the damage that's been done with them. I especially like the subtleties with some of the moments and some of the characters. I like the entire scene with Allison staying at Jadis's domain. I like a lot of the character growths for a lot of the characters, especially Zaid. I think Zaid starting out as like kind of a creep and then sort of becoming something else because he was just taken into this new world and passed around and constantly being treated to all these violent moments. I think it's really good. I think it's a really good way to take a character that's meant to be seen as kind of scummy in the beginning and turn them into a better version of themselves. And a part of the thing that I like about reading comics like Kill 6 Billion Demons is that it helps me figure out how to work on my own comics. It helps me figure out that, hey, maybe you don't always have to stick to a specific formula when you're working on comics. Maybe you can play around a little bit. Kill 6 Billion Demons seems to me like it falls into the same category as Chainsaw Man, and I can't say this for certain, but it does seem like a lot of the things that Tom just sort of puts into Kill 6 Billion Demons, he either put in because he thought it'd be cool, or it'd be fun to see, or maybe even fun to draw. And I could be completely wrong about that. I'm not going to say that I know what he's thinking 100% of the time. I just think that that's the way that it feels, especially when you read the comic in one big long succession. All of this is to say, I just wanted to make a video where I talked about a comic that I like. And I definitely recommend Kill 6 Billion Demons. If you haven't read it, if you haven't heard of it, go and read it. It is a really great comic, especially if you like fighting, action, big epic stories, and all of the things sort of in that same vein. Kill 6 Billion Demons is a really good story. That being said, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to do a couple more of these. This is technically, I guess, my announcement of my return to YouTube, and while I will probably still do card game content, I didn't want to jump into card game content right away. I want to do this short little series of videos where I just talk about different pieces of media that I like, most of which are probably going to be comics, but I'll also probably touch on movies and video games and TV shows and stuff like that. It'll probably be about 8 to 10 videos, maybe more. We'll see. A big reason that I made this video is because I was looking up comics that I like on YouTube and seeing that there weren't really videos talking about them. Like, there were some maybe podcasts where people were reviewing these things, or maybe there'd be a trailer by either the author of these things or by someone re-uploading it from their website. But ultimately, I find it rare to find videos discussing these things, and I just wanted to. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about Kill 6 Billion Demons down below. Let me know if you hated this video. Let me know anything. Let me know if I got information incorrect, because I know that I probably did, and you guys love to correct me on information. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, as always, drink your water.